So what I want to do today is I basically put together a summary file. So all the I mean, obviously all the slides are important, right? But those are the most important ones. And what I did is I also based the questions that are formulated. I based on these slides, so you don't have to go through 500 or 600 different slides. It's good enough if you go through this what I provide today, and then you should be able to answer all this. It's a very, very difficult test, so you will have hard times, and I'm sure that everybody of you will have a problem failing or passing, right? So no, it will be very simple. But I just wanted to basically make sure that you at least grasp the most important parts, right? But before we do this, I wanted to show you something which I got this yesterday, so I thought it was really funny. It was something that where you see that before I start the video, client, business analyst, developer, code. And if you actually, it's a 1-minute video, so I'll show it in a second. It's the client saying something. It's the business analyst actually receiving the message and actually trying to find out what the customer wants, or the client wants. The developer actually listening to the business analyst of what he believes the customer should have, and then what is actually transferred into code. So just to also see that, if the further away you are, it's that old, this old saying, when you start around and you put something, some message into the ear of somebody else, and then it goes on and on, there's always something completely different ending up when the circle is closed. And that's the same thing. So it's a little bit of what I believe is what we cannot do. So there's no sound to it, but so watch what the business analyst is doing. So the code guy is still close to the developer so far, but now it's a fish instead of a bird, right? So I thought it was very interesting. I mean, I know it has nothing directly to do with what we say, but what it has to do is the empathy, and that's why I put it down. The empathy, the understanding of what the customer wants, what the user wants, and to really, having an iteration process with the customer to find out on whether what we actually have understood is what the customer said or what he meant. And so as somebody who does code, you basically can say, well, that's what they told me to do. But what is the value of that code if nobody actually has verified that that is what is needed? And that actually, the same thing happens in a lot of ways to innovation. That innovation is actually diluted down the more you are away from the customer, the less you are actually in direct contact with them. So before we start with the summary, I would like to get a feedback from you on the two different teams. So maybe who wants to present something for Surak or for the Beatrice's bot device? Any volunteers?
I am for the Exobot.
All right, so I'll give you the rights. Let's see. So I have to go to the, and then I say that you are the host. So you are the host now.
Okay, share. Right. Can you see something?
Excellent.
So
it looks already a lot nicer than last time. So it's really cool. All right. This is exactly what I wanted to see. That's cool.
Okay, so I will jump from one slide to the other because most of the slides you have seen already, so I don't want to go again on
Yeah,
those.
yeah, and yeah, some of these you will also present at the final presentation, I would assume.
Exactly. So this slide is important because last week we had the meeting with Munevo. So we had the opportunity to present our project, define better our product, so get in touch more, let's say, with the community, and to define more which is our customer profile. So we choose a specific customer profile on which we design our product features. So here I just want to show the evolution of our product and project itself. And in the last assessment, I think we develop more on the axis of the purpose, people and customer, a bit on the abundance. In terms of we were in touch with Monevo, so we were mostly close to a community that share our, let's say, vision. We define better our customer, and based on this we define better our product, and we defined a bit more the exos canvas attributes in
What's cool to see is that you actually started off with a purpose, 1.5 purpose in the first one, then you dropped down, and then you got back up now. And but you now, and in the second one, you had the people up, and now you raised the purpose together up with the people. So I think that's kind of cool. So sustainability is basically the business model, right? So what is the business model behind it? And that is obviously something that is together also with the abundance, right? So
Exactly. So
and
regarding the business model, I will go later on that because it's related mostly to our revenue cycle. So where we can explain how we use our product and how basically the business model works in terms of the revenue itself. So an important things of the product now decided to give a regulation, so define as a medical device. And when we do this, we should define, for example, to which class the product belongs to. So we have the mobile app. So in this case, is a non-invasive device, an app. So I think can be classified as class one, not invasive, non-invasive product. And then the exobot includes also the muscle electrical stimulators. So in this case, the medical device will belong again on non-invasive, but class 2.
to A or to B.
To be.
Okay, so that's more invasive to be. But I have to say, I maybe Moritz knows more about this, but from my understanding of regulatory,
Yeah.
if you have a software that controls a higher classified device, the
Mhm.
software is also the higher class.
Okay, but
It
so
always goes to the highest class, basically. So the highest class you represent in that whole setup is always the class that the entire product is being classified at. Now it could be that you use. Is it possible that you use the mobile app without the bot?
no, because there's no meaning.
Yeah, so then it I would say then it's definitely a class 2B, the software as well. And I'm not even sure if software class 2B work. Simply I don't know. You know, I am not an expert on this one, but you may want to check. It's not that important for this class, but it's important for you in the beginning. It's not, you cannot have one device a lower class than the other device if it is actually the thing that controls a higher device, then you a higher class, then you need to pump the software also up, or you see the entire product and then the entire product is to be. So that's what it
Okay,
is.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's better. And so actually, there are several type of electrical stimulators that can be used. The idea is that the exobot is made of specific electrodes and sensors that release the electrical stimulation. But depending on the medical condition we have to treat, we can release different type of stimulation. And in combination with our Exobot app, we can create personalized training programs. So for each medical condition that we want to treat, to take care, we can also define a specific electrical stimulation paradigm. And
Okay.
in this case, the training becomes personalized, so very specific to the customer needs.
Okay.
When we were talking with Munevo, also they suggested us to narrow a bit our customer numbers because at the beginning we wanted to target basically everyone
Yeah.
that has muscle disorders, but in this case will be difficult then to make the exobot specific in its features.
Yeah.
So we decided to reduce the number of customer and to focus on specific customer and their specific needs.
Yeah.
So we choose to keep the health insurance companies because when we create Exobot, we basically want to be in touch with the healthcare providers that they will share the product with the patients, basically. So I think it's important to keep this category of customer. Like I was thinking a business to business model. And then as a patient, those patient that maybe has injuries or musculoskeletal dysfunction.
What
Um,
is the because what you normally do in a value proposition canvas is that you focus it on the customer, which you have done right now. So it's for every customer, you need to have a separate value proposition canvas. But typically, what you should also do is for every value proposition, you do a different value proposition canvas. So what is the value proposition that you value the highest for these patients?
the value that we have is that we give the patient the chance to have a faster recovery,
Okay, so faster recovery.
faster recovery than having, for example, a recover but in a gamification way, so more playful
Mhm.
and more effective. There is no need to go every time to the hospital because you can do home training, and also regarding the cost
Okay.
because maybe there is a
Yeah, you need to at some point in time. That's what I tried to say before. Is you need to say which is the most important value proposition that you have. You need to verify and validate that, and then you focus on this particular value proposition and
okay.
your minimal viable product or prototype, and then you see how it works, and maybe then you have to add, and then you can add the other value propositions to it. But and that's why you do it for these different customers, because you can maybe find out that the value proposition is the same, which unlikely it is the case here, because the health insurance, well, they may have the same value proposition because they want you to recover faster because they cost them less
Das
money,
ist das
right?
Ergebnis meiner Websuche.
Sorry, my Siri turned on here. No idea why. Um, so so that is why it's important to do these value proposition canvas, to find out, to prioritize. Do you remember this this one sentence statement that you can formulate based on these different parameters? That always is focusing on the highest, on the most important point of each of these aspects in combination with the most important value proposition. Yeah, but I mean, it's a great job you did, so I'm very happy. And I'm also happy that Munevo gave you some a hint, and I'm sure that if he would probably talk to 3 or 4 more of these companies, you would get different inputs. So, but sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. You want to just show, you were at the business model canvas, right?
Yeah, but this we talked last time. I mean, we didn't
Okay.
really talk so much about the business model canvas. Mostly, I think this is an important part because this is like defining whether the product works or not, and also how do we get in touch with the customer, let's say. So maybe also Chris, you can jump in if I make some mistakes. So basically we have a cycle. We estimated the cost for the exoskeleton and the cost for additional sensor and approximately the cost of the app development. So in the first cycle, basically, we have the request from a patient with a specific clinical problem. So we evaluate the case. Then we test our product and we document also the output. So whether the Exobot was working in the rehabilitation process or not. And based on this, let's say, feedback, when we do our experiment, our testing of the product, we can adjust the Exobot to improve its features. And then this cycle works like this. So then we improve the product, we funded the customer again with the specific problem, clinical problem, and then we test again the product and improving the features itself.
What is the cost you put down there? I don't understand what is that?
What? The cost of what?
What is the cost? Is the cost of developing it, the cost of manufacturing it, the cost of selling, or what is it?
Actually, the cost of the exoskeleton, because we want to buy it pre-manufactured and not to develop it ourselves, because this would be too costly. We figured out.
So that's what you pay basically to somebody else. Is that right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right.
So this 2,000 to 4,000, this is like the range in the market right now for a machine that would do in our favors.
Is there something available already like that you can buy?
Yeah, already. In China and Japan, you can buy exoskeletons. I think also in America. And then for the additional sensors and effectors, so the EMS stimuli, we planned another around about €1,000 also with montage. And the cost for the app development is around €7,000 for every OS, like iOS or Android. So if you want to just put it for this, it would be €14,000.
So and plus, of course, that you need to add some labor costs for yourself and some other things, and so this is and this would create a minimal viable prototype then.
Yeah, and the labor costs also are partly calculated in the additional sensor and effectors part.
So if I give you €10,000, you build something like that?
Of course, always, Michael.
Beatrice, are you following on that?
What? Sorry?
So if I give you 10,000, at the end of the day, I'm gonna get a working Exobot with an app. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Maybe I do give you the €10,000. I'll see what happens.
I put my IBAN in the chat.
Yeah. No, the IBAN normally will make milestone payments.
Okay.
So not upfront payment. It's a little bit of an investment payment, So, but I would very coarsely say that's really cool if you could do it for that. It will probably cost you significantly more than that. But that's okay. That's why I would be very willing to think about it.
I totally agree with you with the first product, but I was more calculating here for the average product, once it is developed.
Okay. But that is not what is relevant at the moment. Relevant is how much money do you need to actually get to that point?
To get to the prototype.
Yeah. So that's important.
Yeah, that's another reason why I was also suggesting to place just sensor like a stimulator instead of building up the
By
entire.
the way, I don't like the word stimulator or stimulate, so don't use this necessarily. Some people in my group know why. Okay, it's just a joke, Beatrice. Just don't worry about it.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, the video you already saw. Oh God, no, sorry. The video you already saw, we didn't really make any change. We just integrate the two things, and yeah, that's it.
Cool. So basically, can you go back to the first slide just quickly?
Yes, I'm going.
Okay, so in essence, what you need to validate a little bit more on the metrics part, that it's not up. That's I understand that, maybe you can define something. You want to check another 10 or 15 different customers, and you want to, but that's not that important right now. So what would be somewhat important is that you actually work on the sustainability, and sustainability is basically how do we make money? What does it cost? How do we make money? What is our business model that's behind it? That's together with the abundance, right? So these are the two things where Yeah.
But the money, I mean, they come also when we create the product. First, we invest. We need the money to create the product, but then we sell this to the healthcare providers. I think, or not, Chris? How did it work, the revenue cycle?
That's your wish.
No, of course, yeah, it should work like this. Like we at first we define the product, the prototype, show it to the company, tell them our cost, marginal cost, what they can save, of course, because we have to attract them. And yeah, then we push it out, and of course we will develop it further. It won't be the same product, and by developing, of course, they can offer their customers a higher quality product. So they also have to pay for more quality.
Good. All right. Sounds exciting. Thank you very much. So that's I'm very impressed, I have to say already. So and I hope, and that's the most important thing, guys. You need to see that you learn something by doing this process, and that you actually have some fun doing it. Okay. So Beatrice, you have some fun on this so far?
If I what?
You have some fun
In doing the exobot?
Yeah, and all this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Otherwise, I will not do it.
All right. So do we have, who wants to present for Surak? Is it Moritz?
Yeah, I have to.
Where are you, Moritz?
I'm at home.
And Veronica is with you. Shall we think something? Shall we think something more about this, or is this just by accident?
I was just doing a customer interview with her.
All right. That's all good. Not that.
Yeah, basically, I was expecting that we will have our Zusammenfassung today.
Yeah.
So I didn't prepare nice slides, but we will do this until next week. I can basically share
I sent a WhatsApp file on it, didn't I?
Possible, I don't remember right now. But I can shortly introduce what we mainly did last week. We continued with the customer interviews. I think we had 4 or 5 now. And what we so far learned from it, that the solution has to be as easy to use as possible. They want a quick solution that is not causing any additional work or change in the workflow. The system should be easy to learn or to adapt to. And in terms of feedback, they are not so interested which layer they cross currently. Important for the goal of the procedure, it's more important to know when the cavity has been reached. And then maybe additionally, if something else has been hit inside the patient.
Did you do an assessment or no assessment yet on the new learnings?
No assessment, because we are planning 1 or 2 more next week, and then I summarize all of them.
Okay, all right, very good.
Yeah. And about the complications, they also said in all of these complications are manageable. So it's not nice, of course, if you injure somebody, but they can mostly fix it even without opening the patient completely or converting the surgery to an open one.
Yeah.
So I think we have to focus more on providing the feeling of safety and maybe shorter surgery times.
Well, there is 2 ways you can do the whole thing. You can address the customer side, which is a lot more difficult because the customer typically does not know that he needs a Verus needle, for example, for the surgery. But if the customer would know that there's something like that around, he says, by the way, doctor, I'm sure you're using the Surak Verus needle, right? Because that's more safe. That's an approach from the customer side. That's probably very difficult to get done in your context. So you need to probably consider or provide the benefit to the clinicians primarily. While at the end of the day, the final customer is the patient, right? Another thing could be that you go through the health insurances as well, and somehow mandate the doctors to use this. So this is more like a political thing, you know. We just say, and by the way, I think a health insurance, you should be interested in that everybody uses this. Also very difficult. So I see it. I see some difficulties. That's why I personally also believe that Varus Needle is a cool idea, but it's not the idea where you make money at the end of the day with Surak. I think that you make money probably with possibly more with the robotic approach and some other things. Yeah,
I agree.
Keep it open and you check it. I mean, and it may be different in different countries and different segments. So.
Yeah, approaching the insurances is also something we want to start this year.
And don't, I think I said that many times too, that don't focus and don't think too much about that you need to be successful in Germany. Think about success, but you need to actually find out where there is maybe an easier market entry than in Germany. Yeah, so that may be important for you guys. Yeah. And I think there's quite a bit of other applications that you can target. Yeah,
definitely.
Okay, any other inputs? No. If you guys want to, I'm offering that too. If you guys want to have some additional session, you just let me know. Okay, next week. Yeah, because we have basically next week we would have the final, and I would expect you guys now. Guys, you will all get a 1.0 or 1.3 right at the end of the day. So it's not we're not doing this for any grade or anything. We're doing this to actually feel that we have done a good job and the outcome is actually usable, right? And so it's more up to you if you wanna do this. Okay. All right. So if you have done that, then I would actually start with the summary, and I would. Oh, I need the batteries. I need the host back.
I don't remember anymore. How can I give you back to the?
You go to the participants and click on me, or not. You just put your cursor over me, and then it says mehr, more, and then you click down, and then it should say host erstellen. I'm the host. Okay, I have gotten the message. So where are we? Right here. Okay, so I actually gonna leave it probably in this. No, I'll put it in the real modus. Okay, so let's start from here. So I will go through really quickly with these because first of all, I don't want to spend too much of your time, but I may highlight some of the things, but not necessarily always explain everything on the slides. You should have seen them before anyway, and I think this is the one I've seen more than once, possibly. So this is my description of what is innovation. Anna, what's innovation? I've asked you this 5 times already. I know that. So what is innovation, Anna?
Realization times.
What was it first? Say again.
Commercialization.
Yeah, that's. It's Assoziativgesetz. You can start with that one. So,
yeah, exactly.
And what follows?
Times.
It's not
innovation, no?
No.
Commercialization.
In this case, this would be invention times commercialization.
Yeah.
Okay, so and I have actually today I gave a presentation at the University of Essen, and it was very interesting because we were talking about this. Maybe I showed this this slide because it was actually, I thought it was very cool. Let me just try to find it quickly. Here we go. I have to actually share this one now. This one. So it was this one here. So what's really cool about this is that, so how do I do this here? So we actually go around a unmet clinical need, right? And we typically, sorry, that was not supposed to happen like this. I did the wrong sequence. I'm really sorry. So we need to understand the need to improve, right? And then there is scientists involved, maybe who actually figure out in this, and then we actually do some research on it. And typically, what happens is we write papers and patents. This is the invention part. What very often does not happen, and I believe this is almost the most important thing, is the translation part, which makes sure that we move from the scientific paper and on the patent, we move down and actually have something that will become available to the patient. And that's the translation part, and that's the innovation part. up to here, we are still up to the scientific papers. We're only talking about invention. We've read a nice paper. But as long as it doesn't reach the patient, it's not an innovation, at least in my opinion. There may be other people who think, no, that's not true. And maybe that what we did in research will actually do something in 10 years. Yeah, then it's an innovation in 10 years, but it's not one right now. Innovation is only then when the patient or the user has a benefit and really applies and really uses this benefit. So I think we can take this one out again, and now we go back to the other one. The other one was this one. So, okay. So we had this one done. Next one. Biodesign process is important. Again, don't have to repeat this. Identify, invent, implement. You saw that also in the previous presentation. And only if we do this, we come up with disruptive technology, which is a goal. So it's not always looking at, you know, how can I make a thing a little better, but how can I make it dramatically better, and how can I make it dramatically cheaper? Cost. A lot of scientists don't want to listen to this, but cost is a driving factor for disruption. If you make it significantly cheaper, it is something that is then disrupting the current setup. Okay. This is the definition of incremental and disruptive. That one I think you should know. I'm not entirely sure if I have a question on it. I don't remember. And the goal is that we actually create not a better traditional medicine, which means we replace some of the analog setups with digital setups, but we actually use the new things that we develop, also the digital capabilities, to create new medicine. And the new medicine may actually put the doctor in a completely different role that is not necessarily known at the moment. Okay. And that's from Clayton Christensen. He's one of the guy who actually talked about this disruption. So I think it's just very interesting to read. It's also about the personalized approaches and individual therapies that we need to focus on. Okay. Click through this one. You know, the 6Ds. I'm sure that I have a question on that one. Starting with digital, then we at some point in time reach a disruption point. That's where the two lines basically cross. It leads to smaller devices, cheaper devices, and eventually, you know, we'll actually make devices. Is somebody?
Michael, your slides doesn't change.
Oh, I'm really sorry. So I need to go back. Don't know exactly what I do here. Let me see. I probably have to use a different screen. I use maybe the desktop. Okay. So let's try this. You see something now changing? Okay, very good. I'm really sorry. Let me go back to the other ones here. So this one I showed you already, right? This one I showed you. I didn't show you, didn't see it, but I explained it. Okay. Then incremental disruptive, I explained. So just have a feeling what it is. I talked about the new medicine versus a better traditional medicine. This is a statement about individualized and personalized medicine and therapies. This is a cool, it's over 200 years old statement from Sir William Osler about the interesting fact that the human, not all humans are the same, but they're individuals, and therefore they need to be treated individually. And now we are with the 6Ds of exponential technologies. That starting point is digital, disappointment phase, or deception phase. It's another word of with a D. It's the same type. And then at some point in time, they cross the lines because developments go so quick, leading to dematerialization, cost less, and make it available to everyone. And everything that is beyond that curve, where it says disruption, could lead also from a business perspective to some form of chaos, which we don't know because we cannot foresee what the effects will be. Lots of these different technologies. By the way, I've actually asked today in this presentation on why medicine would not be part of this, why medicine would not be affected with it, and why medicine would continue to be the same in the next 10 years than it has been in the last 10 years. And I think that the people are aware of it, but to a certain extent, they want to wait and see what happens rather than to be actively pursuing this part, at least from the medical side. Okay, lots of these technologies are around, lots of different things that will happen to healthcare possibly. Again, I'm a storyteller to a certain extent, but I'm not entirely sure that will happen. It would make sense to me that it happens that way, but I don't know how long it will take. No idea. Okay, interesting. We should continue rather than working. Actually, also, sorry, when I throw this in, there was another presentation today where a doctor, a professor in urology was talking about coming up with some really cool treatment or analysis for a patient for a very, very rare cancer where it's only 23 people affected every year in Germany. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't do that. This is very interesting to do that, but this is a focus. If we would focus on with more effort on risk and behavior pattern changes, we would be able to save these huge amounts of money, huge amounts of problems that are generated by these risk and behavior patterns. And sometimes I believe we maybe invest the money wrong. Again, I'm not saying that we shouldn't invest it for these poor people, or one of the 23 who would basically, he or she would think it's the most important thing that we put money into that project, understandably. But sometimes you just have to ask yourself on whether there has to be a certain idea of cost versus benefit. Okay. Don't want to comment on this one. It's just, I think, good enough that we show it. So different problems, different diseases, different areas, different diseases. We also follow, and that's a little bit, if you really compare the biodesign process with the design thinking process, there's a lot of similarities, because you see also the arrows going circling around, right? So there's also an iteration in there. And the only thing that is kind of like different is that they don't put the part of implementation in there. They put a part of test in there. So you test what you do, you go back and you change the product to make the product better. So this is not made or meant in that context for starting a company, but it's more like creating a better product or a better prototype all the time. Okay. And what you do is, that's what's mentioned here, sorry, is you create minimal viable prototypes to show actually these different types of value propositions and these prioritizing of the value proposition. Something, Beatrice, you look for the highest value proposition. You actually try to make a minimal viable prototype that highlights exactly that value proposition. I think I'll come later on to this showing about the blue ocean, because blue ocean approach, who can I pick on right now? Veronica, what's blue ocean again?
Not a red ocean.
What was that? No, don't ask Moritz.
I know what
I'm not sure that Moritz knows, but anyway.
a new one, maybe Tesla.
Now, what is the really point of a blue ocean innovation? Christoph?
I think the blue ocean innovation was going to a new market, something that's not there yet. And the red ocean is like where all the the people are there already. Like, for example, for the car market, Audi, Mercedes, BMW. Why start a new car market in the red ocean? Why you don't go to the blue ocean and find new customers and new needs?
What do you do to actually find a blue ocean? That's the question, actually. Maybe I didn't write. What do? You do something that's called value innovation. And value innovation is that you actually pick something that is really important to the customer, the most important thing. So in the car, getting faster from A to B, but on whether the air conditioning is included or not, who cares, right? That's important. And then you say, and I can actually make this value proposition, this particular thing, I can make that better than the others, maybe faster, maybe more fuel efficient, whatever, right? And I can make it dramatically cheaper. So the value proposition going from A to B faster, I can actually show, and I can do it better, and I can do it about 10 times cheaper than the competition is. Value proposition, increasing the value while at the same time decreasing the cost of that. That's value innovation. And that's the center and the core piece of blue ocean innovation. But we'll get to this in a second, okay? So going back to Beatrice, is like get your value proposition, make a minimal viable product out of it, maybe think of which of the features you can actually enhance, make it better, that are important to the customer, and which ones I just leave out, I don't really need, and with that, I save money, right? Okay, so different types of vision. So we had a 20th century startup that basically said, we have an idea, we are cool engineers, and we build the product, and we'll see on whether we find customers. Yeah, could be successful, but probably not. And then actually creating some form of lean a startup, maybe using design thinking approaches where you build these minimal viable prototypes, iterate them because you check the market, you check the customer, pivot, maybe you have to change something. Maybe that's for Zurich, for example, pivot. We do the Varus needle, we'll find out, we learn something from it. Maybe you have to pivot later on and go to something else that we have figured out and found in the meantime. All right, this is a very normal process. It's nothing to be worried about. It's actually something that is good, yeah, because you have learned something. And that's what we try to follow up on. That is that all these canvases that I gave you, introduced you, actually have they work together. At the end of the day, the value proposition is actually diving really deep into understanding the customer, understanding the problems of the customers. You use these to formulate a business around it. That's where you use the business model canvas. And then you actually use maybe experimentation phases using this Excel canvas to make an exponential model out of this. So they work all very well together. And you don't necessarily have to start that sequence, but you see which parts are affected by using that. That's why I believe using a meta methodology like this Purpose Launchpad, which is actually nothing new. What it does in the Purpose Launchpad, it just shows you like what kind of tools can you employ to actually raise awareness of certain areas, right? At the end of the day, it uses existing tools like the ones that are presented right here. Okay. Value proposition canvas, business model canvas, types of innovation, very important too. So innovation, Anna, last time I asked you, Anna, innovation equals, now you know.
Invention times commercialization.
All right, invention times making money. That's what you can say too, right? So there's different types of innovation, and they could be configuration innovations, offering innovations, experience innovation, and they all come with different values. The easiest one typically is the offering, right? You offer something which you have offered before, but it's now better. But when you actually get into innovation, where you rethink the business model, you rethink the process that you bring the thing to market, maybe even the channel you bring to market, they could have a huge effect on actually creating a longer lasting innovation. So think about that too. Not only the obvious part, like making a product that does something and does it well, but how can we actually put that into the market? How can we attach the customer to it? Okay. This is Blue Ocean again. So this is that value innovation that I just mentioned again. So eliminating, reducing cost while at the same time raising and creating new value or raising existing value. This is value innovation. It's very, very powerful. Maybe not necessarily in our context right now, but in the context when you are actually trying to compete with a product in an existing market, in this red ocean market, or you're actually trying to focus on a particular aspect. Do you remember this easy ejector? What we did with this ejector is we basically focused on that one aspect that is important to the customer. That customer wants to have an injection rate of a certain flow rate, but he or she wants to have it really easily done, and at the end of the day, easy usable and handleable and safe. And we raised that part while at the same time reducing the cost of this device by a factor of 300, 400, 500. And hopefully that will be successful. I'm currently in the discussion with two of these big companies, and it actually looks pretty good. So we'll have to, my hopes are high, so we'll see. Okay, Purpose Launchpad. We already mentioned you start in the middle. You try to actually have a purpose. You have to understand something about the customer. So I don't want to go. You know the process, and it's iterative, and it's a process that actually goes from an idea point as well to a validation point to an implementation point. And there's different tools for that you can use for actually raising, answering questions and raising the value that is attached to that. You could, for example, do some form of a Scrum methodology. This is the Scrum part where we try to do a lot of experiments and try to find out new information, and then basically try to increase the value of what you have generated already. That's what we were trying to do in this class. That every week you did something new, and it's kind of like a little bit of a process that is described here. So if you would do that in a real setup and you have nothing else to do, this is your main job, you probably put a lot more effort into it. Okay. So what will happen with healthcare? So what are the kind of like development steps or features that you need to have? What are exponential technologies? Also, please don't always do what the customer tells you they want to have. That's a very important thing. So while you can ask a customer, don't necessarily do what he or she wants, but make your own assessment of where technology will go, where the markets will go. Okay. Okay, and if you wait too long, you may be too late, right? So you will learn, the most you will learn is by actually starting the process and learning all the things you were not even aware you didn't know, okay? Okay, and that means you have to get out and focus on understanding the problem. If you don't understand the problem, the solution will only be for a particular time, for a particular customer, for a particular application, but not a more valuable one. Okay. Lots of reasons why startups fail, and some of them we try to address in this lecture, at least superficially. And particularly the most important one is I did not understand the customer and what the customer really wants or needs. This is what you have to focus on, because that is the highest failure rate. Of course, financials you can learn. So that's why we did not focus on that. We focused a little bit more on also the customer segments, the different ones, and maybe also some of the communication issues that are associated with product ideas using a minimal viable product approach and some other things. Okay. Okay, another definition of innovation. I'm not going to ask Anna again, but it's not only invention times commercialization, but it needs to actually fit into the business world. In essence, it's the same thing that I just said with these two words, but it needs to be feasible from the technology point of view. It needs to actually have a business component attached to it. The people have to want it, and it has to be to a certain extent. There needs to be some reliability from the innovator side. Okay, I think I'm going to cut through those ones here just so you understand what the value propositions are. This is very important. I thought is using the value proposition canvas to actually create an elevator pitch. I was talking a little bit more to Alfredo today. You had this discussion with the guys from Hanover, and he told me he had very little time. I said, yeah. If you have very little time, you need to actually spend the time very carefully, and you have to communicate. You have to be able to communicate within 2 minutes what is really so good and great about what you offer and what nobody else can do. This is a very important thing that you need to get down. And everybody in Surak or even in Exobot needs to know what is so cool about what we do. Okay, so this is for the injector. Here we got to this one, Exo Canvas. So there's these internal and external attributes that you can look at and think about those. You know, it may at your point right now make not that much sense, but if I look, for example, at Surak, you know, why does Surak does not need to actually do all the algorithms themselves? Maybe somebody else can do it he gets paid for 1 month or 2 months and gets something done. You don't put them on the staff. You can put staff on demand. You just use them whenever you need them. You need to actually start experimenting a lot and learning from these experiments, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of ways where this canvas makes a lot of sense for actually not only exploiting the current setup, but planning to the future. For me, the most important ones are the experimentation and the community and crowd, because they will, at the end of the day, drive. Experimentation will give you new insights, and community and drive will actually pick them up. Okay, MTP, we talked about MTP, massive transformative purpose. What is an MTP? What's not? So we don't go into this one again. What is a good MTP or what is not a good MTP? What is the difference between a purpose, a vision, and a mission? That you need to actually, if you want to get something done, not only a good idea, but you need very good people. You need a decent strategy. Strategy is the things we show in the EXO canvas, in the business model canvas. People, you have to find out what kind of expertise you need. You need to not only talk about it, but you need to be able to execute it. And to do this, you need cash. If you don't have money, it's very difficult to do this, right? Okay, reimbursement, we talked quickly. Reimbursement is something that is important. That is the part which is creating abundance and sustainability in the business, Beatrice, right? How do we make money with this product? Is anybody paying for that service? Is anybody paying for this product? How do they pay for this? And so we talked a little bit about the different healthcare systems that are around, the German one being what is described here as the Bismarck ones. The free market is the one in the United States, for example. And they all have different ways of actually addressing innovation and paying for innovation and maybe even, how would I say this, being happy about innovation. Okay, Blue Ocean, we talked already. I don't know why this is right now here. I'm really sorry. I had this doubled. So this was double. So we can cut over it. Very good. Different approaches also in actually getting things done. Waterfall approach is this typical thing that big companies do, a specification, and then we figure it out. And at some point in time, very late down is when we are finished. That's when we test the market. Not a good idea for new products. You want to be agile. You want to test. You want to have very quick results, and then want to actually check those with your customers. Okay, we'll go through this. Empathy met is very important, right? So you actually try to understand your customer, not only what he or she says, but what can you read? What do you think the customer thinks? What does he do and what does he feel? Because this is very important as part of this empathetic approach of understanding what the customer really is excited about. Okay. Point of views. Prototyping is very important. Okay. Health in Jordan. What will happen with the democratic shift? What will happen with data in general? So just I'm sure there's nothing actually on this chart here in the test, but I thought it was important to see. This is also something that Beatrice just showed. This is the US approach, the FDA approach of certifying, where you basically analyze the severity of harm that could happen if something goes wrong in relation to how often does it actually happen. And if it happens often and it's not really having an effect, then it may still be acceptable. But if it has a catastrophic effect, death, for example, to the patient, and it happens only incredibly rare, it may still not be acceptable. Yeah. The exception is, I have to say that, and you may see that with pharmaceuticals and other things, is if there is no other option. So if there's no other option and the patient would die anyway, just to make that example, then you can actually say, but with this one, he still has a chance to survive. Now he may still die, and it may kill him, but if we don't do that, he has no chance. And now he has at least a little bit of a chance. That is acceptable. Okay, a little bit to the regulatory product classes. Obviously not something we go into right now. And I don't think there's anything on the test either. What is IP? Intellectual property. It's not only patents, it's some other things too. Know-how. So I know how to do it, but I don't tell you. Yeah, don't tell anybody else. Coke recipe and some other things. What are the basic requirements for a patent? Maybe more details on length and cost, these kind of things. Yeah, I think some of those we have already mentioned before. What are the design rules on MedTech? Some that you should follow if you design something, if you design an exobot or you design a surgical audio guidance. What are the different types of investor readiness level? You just should have heard about it. So it's really bad quality. I'm really sorry for that, but I think I stole that from, I did a screenshot at the time. And if you are actually in medtech, you may actually be at the point where you can get funding and external funding if you're somebody in these levels. More likely though, if you are actually have identified what the regulatory pathway would be and have identified what the reimbursement strategy would be. You don't have to have the product that is being sold and where you get money in, but you have to have at least identified what is the regulatory process and what is the reimbursement process. There's a lot of things you don't see while you start a company or start a project. In Germany, you always see the entrepreneur who then at some point in time maybe has a nice house and drives a nice car, but you don't see all the things that went in before that happened, right? And there's a lot of things you have to work with. There's a lot of disappointment there. There is extremely hard work involved, dedication involved. You will fail. You will have a lot of setbacks. You will try to pivot, and that's people don't see that though. And I think it's exciting to do, but I think it also needs to be clear. And it's not only if you start a company, it's if you start a project, it's the same thing. Okay, yeah, at some point in time, you have to also think if you really want to get a startup done or you want to, spin it out, that there is capital involved. You need to have capital, and they want to have the people who give you the money. That's why I was quickly saying, Beatrice, I give you 10,000 euros and then I get 25% of the company, right? And then you hopefully make millions out of it, and my 25% are worth also millions. There's a risk involved with that, right? A very high risk that you will not be successful. But if you're successful, then my investment has been 100-fold, 1,000-folded, right? And that's how some of the investors think. Some of the early stage investors think. Not some of the big venture capital companies. They're more think about somewhat of a safety net around it. Okay. Nothing said to that. Yeah, digital health is in everybody's mouth. Everybody talks about it. Not everybody understands what digital health means. Digital health does not mean, I said that before, that we just do a process that is currently analog digital, but that we actually use data and other information to actually create some form of new information, some form of new information that we can use for other things that we have not thought it could be usable at the moment. Okay. I also taught you a little bit about the different mindsets of these people, and that's what they have in common. Not saying you are not, and now maybe there is an Elon Musk in this group. That would be really cool. Please remember me then, right? When you're Elon Musk, and give me some of your success back. But let's also say maybe we don't want to be Elon Musks, right? Or we don't want to be Richard Branson's. There's also some things that come with that type of how would I say this? Everybody knows these people. I'm not sure that's always something good, right? But they have a long-term thinking approach. They're very optimistic about it, not negative. They do what we are trying to do here as well. They think about the customer. They don't think necessarily about the cool Nature paper. They think about what is good for the customer. Okay, so these are some of the things that these people all do and all have in common, and some of the things you can certainly copy from them, right? Okay, so I showed you some of my innovation laws that you can ignore if you want to, but I do follow some of them at least, or most of them. Otherwise, I would have not written them down. And I certainly do believe in number 19, speed is critical. I do, and people who know and work with me, I do things typically very fast. I don't do them always very well. I'm also aware of that. I do them sometimes a little sloppy, but I do them fast. Because if I do them fast, I can do something else, and I can do something else. And I'm not trying to change people here. I'm just trying to say that has worked well for me, and maybe it does work well for you as well. Okay. Okay, I've also talked about reverse innovation. That's something where we have to say that maybe in the healthcare business, things in Germany and for Germany are maybe not the thing that will be successful. Maybe it will be actually a little problematic in the future, because we have a set environment, we actually have enough doctors, we have a fairly good setup. So if you want to actually place and develop disruption, You may have to go to other countries that really need what you offer. And if they have actually, if it's proven that it works there, you may actually be able to bring it back to the developed world. Okay. Think a little bit, I'm not commenting on this one, on whether you're a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. I hope that every one of you is a growth mindset. Growth mindset is, to a certain extent, curiosity. Am I curious about what happens? Am I interested in what happens? Or am I just playing along and, all right, whatever Moritz tells me, I will do, right? Or will I say I'm working with Moritz and creating maybe even a bigger thing? You know, there's something, you know the word synergy, and the word synergy is defined as 1 + 1 equals greater or equal than 2. Actually, not equal, greater than 2, or maybe even significantly greater than 2. Because some of you may know things that other people don't know, and putting these two together can create something really big. Okay, how will healthcare change? I think we had some previous slides on this one. So it's, again, we have health determinants that are not dependent on healthcare provision. That's only a small part of it. And I call that also sustainable health. So how do I make sure that it's a sustainable health? I need to make sure that people have enough money, that health is affordable, that they have good food, that they exercise well. I have to make sure about a lot of other things, and it's not only healthcare. And we have to actually at some point in time, that has to be our in the developed world, our one of the goals is that we shift healthcare delivery as far as possible from the bottom right to the top left, right? Quality of life is high at home. When you are sick at home, it's better than being sick in the hospital, right? Everybody would agree. And on the other side, it's significantly more expensive being treated in a hospital than at home. So obviously that doesn't work for everything. If you do need surgery, you need to go to the hospital. But there's a lot of other things you probably can do at home by, creating tools and devices that monitor and maybe even prevent things from happening. Okay. So data twins, so this is something that I showed today as well, and I hope that this class was at least able to give you some of these, which I believe necessary soft skills, the 21st century skills that go beyond learning how to do AI and how to program robotics, or how to know how the human being works and how to do diagnosis as a medical doctor. It goes beyond that. And I think that's very, very important, that you have a much a broader view over different aspects, and then you apply them for your particular need. Okay, that's it. I'm basically done with the summary. And I just wanted to maybe give you, as a last one, the just a little information about next week, which I've done before. So I'd like you guys to first of all hand me in these individual presentations if possible, the team presentations and the team paper. There was also paper attached to that. Please remember that. And then we'll do the presentations. So don't focus too much on the 10 minutes. If it's 12 minutes or 14 minutes, we have enough time, and it's not a problem either. And then we'll do a little test. It's not 25 questions. I lied. It's 20. Sorry, it's not 20 questions. It's 25 questions. And please take your cell phone with you, because you need your cell phone. Okay, so cell phone needs to be active because you need it basically as an answering tool. And I think I am done with that. Let me just check. Yeah, I'm done. Yeah, so let me just stop this here as well.